In this video, I'm going to take you through the process of how I shoot my own photos for Instagram. Just me, you, and my best friend, this tripod. We'll talk about the gear that you need to be a photographer and a model simultaneously. We'll talk about some tips for being more confident on camera and posing, plus how I edit these photos and optimize them for Instagram growth. As you can tell, we have an optimistic agenda for this video, so let's dive right in. Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Katie and I'm here to be your guide along your content creator journey. If you're new here, normally on this channel, I like to share all my best tips about Instagram and social media growth, and I also happen to live in a van. And today that van is parked in the middle of the desert. We are currently in the Guadalupe Mountains, right along the border of Texas and New Mexico, and I thought, what better place to do a little photo shoot and take you along through my process of being my own photographer. It's really bright, and I thought that the direct sunlight and shadows could be cool to play with the photos, but it's also turning out that's really hard to not be squinty. So we'll just see how it goes. I might need some sunglasses. So first, why don't we talk about gear? Because I think that is the most common question that I get when it comes to how to take your own photos, right? If you're getting somebody else to take a photo of you, it's pretty obvious. You've got a camera and another person, and snap, snap, you've got some photos. So if you are out in the middle of the desert by yourself, like me, or more accurately, like me, your Instagram husband is currently doing his actual job and can't take your photos, what you're gonna need is obviously your camera. My personal favorite is the Sony a6600, and today I'm gonna be using my 18 to 105 millimeter lens, which has a maximum, I guess, aperture of f4. Normally I would like to use one of my prime lenses, but the reason why I've got this guy out is because it is bright today and I only have an ND filter that fits on this lens. So it's basically like sunglasses for your camera. So that's what I'm going to be using today. More importantly, you're going to need a tripod, because obviously you need to set your camera somewhere. This is a pretty heavy duty Manfrotto tripod that I bought several years ago. Most likely what I would recommend to y'all is actually the tripod that I've got my camera on right now. I'll link it in the description. It's a Manfrotto travel tripod. The reason why I don't use it for this camera so much is just because it's a bit heavy, and this tripod is rather light. So I like to use this guy, which is much more rugged and heavy duty for my bigger camera. If you're just using a phone, which is totally fine, then you could definitely use this cheaper, lighter Manfrotto tripod that I'll link below. The main important thing about your tripod, if you are going to be shooting with like a DSLR or mirrorless camera like this, is that it needs to have a ball joint mount on the top. I think that's what it's called. Basically what that means is it allows you to move around your mount like this, so you can see like this would be the camera being mounted horizontal, and this would be it being mounted vertical. And obviously if you're taking photos for Instagram, you want to be able to have your camera go vertical. So this is actually just something that I got off Amazon, and I attached it to this Manfrotto tripod. So I'll link all these things in the description if you want to get them, but the most important thing if you're going to be shooting with some kind of traditional camera is you want some way that your camera can be mounted vertical on your tripod. That is the key point. Oh, and I almost forgot, the other important point for shooting with your Sony camera, your Canon camera, whatever, is that you're going to need the app on your phone. So for Sony, it's called Imaging Edge. For Canon, it's called Canon Camera Connect, I believe. And basically what this is going to allow us to do is remotely trigger the shutter. So you won't have to like press the button on timer and run away. You'll be able to press it on your phone, so you can be standing a distance from the camera and you don't have to run back and forth. It also allows you to be in the frame and analyze like how the shot is looking, you know, from wherever you're standing. So that is also an essential part of this process. All right, so with the tech sorted out, let's go find our location, aka just walk like, I don't know, 20 feet away from the van, and we'll set up and I'll show you how I pose. So the first step, I've got my camera set up in like the general area that I want. I'm just gonna go ahead and get my app connected. So I'm just like joining the Wi-Fi that the camera emits, and in just a minute here I should be able to see what the camera sees on my phone. I'm going to actually change the shutter setting so that it's on a 2-second timer. I mean, I could change it to like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, depends on how long I need to put my phone down. For this demonstration, I will probably just kind of hold my phone discreetly out of view for the sake of expediency. Anyway, so I've got that set, and now I'm gonna go and figure out where I want to be in the frame. Okay, we're gonna ignore the fact that you can see my microphone wire, and also this is a risk, but my sandals look ugly. Ow, okay. I'm gonna come closer. I think this is sort of random, but I might end up getting the camera lower, but let's just take a test shot. So, you know, it takes some time to load, but then you can preview the image that you just took on your phone. Ow. Okay, I think I was able to extract this from my foot, but that really hurt. Shouldn't have come out here without shoes on. Now I'm like really curious. Yeah, the photo was me trying to take something out of my foot. Man, like the 2-second timer always seems longer than 2 seconds. Okay, so I'm like fine with this. Like these photos are like all right. I'm gonna put the shoes back on for safety, but they're nothing like spectacular. So this is the process, right? You gotta just like set up your camera, try something, and then if you look at it and you're like, you know, that's cute, that's fine, but like, it's just a picture of me standing up. I'm gonna try something different to try to like vary up the framing a little bit, make it more interesting. Maybe I'll sit on the ground. Maybe that could spice it up a bit. I mean, as if standing barefoot in the desert wasn't dangerous enough. Let's sit. Okay, so I'm gonna adjust the camera. We'll just stop the screen recording for a second, and I'll maybe try sitting. I've just adjusted my focal length, like essentially zoomed in a bit. Oh, your girl's definitely bleeding. We'll get Dan to look at that later. I wanted the mountains to look bigger, and so if I do this now, hopefully you'll be able to see it in my screen recording. This is as wide as this lens goes, so we're at like 18 millimeters on a crop sensor. You can see that the foreground looks really long and expansive, and the mountains look really small in the background. But if I zoom in, I mean, maybe this is obvious, but like the mountains look bigger. So I'm gonna zoom, not quite that much because I don't wanna, okay. I'm just gonna go walk out there and follow my little guide on my screen and see where it is I should be, avoiding any spiky things. So I'll just kind of like test it out by squatting here. Okay, yeah, I do think this is good. So first of all, we're gonna analyze the ground for dangers, and I'm gonna sit on my shoes, I think. Okay, and then I can just set my phone on the ground. I think if I hide my phone behind this grass, you won't be able to see it in the picture. Okay, cool. Now, we'll just do another test shot. Yeah, this is sick. Okay, I'm happy with this. So, ouch, everything in the desert is spiky. Okay. I almost wonder if it would look better. This is gonna take a minute to set up. I think it would look better if my head was, ouch, frick. I think it would look better if my head was peeking out over the horizon, rather than it being like with bushes in the background. So I'm gonna lower the tripod, angle the camera up a little bit, and then do the same pose. Hopefully, as you can tell from this process, I am not a professional photographer. I am just trying stuff out and then experimenting, and I've had lots of experience like working with this stuff, so I know, oh, if I want my head and shoulders to be above the horizon, this is what I have to do. But you can totally learn this just by playing around with it and trying it. So don't be intimidated, just get out there and try. While I'm setting up this new framing, why don't I cut to Katie from the future, who can share with you a few confidence tips about how to get better with posing. Oh hey, Katie from the very near future here to share 3 tips about being confident when you're posing for photos. The first tip I have is to start in a very private place. This, for example, is perfect because there's really nobody around looking at me, like judging how I'm posing or anything. It can be very intimidating when you go to popular tourist sites, for example, to go and try to start doing artsy photos. I've done that and I have had people make weird comments and it does feel awkward. So if you're just getting started, either maybe your backyard, some like local place that you know is not very busy, that's where you want to start, especially if you're new to the whole like fashion thing. You know, it's one thing, obviously, we're all used to just standing and smiling for photos, but if you're trying to get kind of like artsy pictures for Instagram, you have to start going outside of your comfort zone, and the best place to start doing that is somewhere private. Along the same lines, my second tip is to genuinely just start posing in front of the mirror. I know it sounds like so silly, but I really think this is where a lot of my posing kind of comes from, because when I was a kid, I would watch America's Next Top Model, which honestly is a lot to unpack in itself, but it inspired me to, you know, get in front of the mirror and like, I think that's where you just have to start playing with different shapes and like seeing what kind of looks good. Part of that is also kind of starting to let go of your own insecurities around your body, because I know there's probably a lot of y'all watching who feel like, oh, well, like no pose will look good on me. Like in this body, it doesn't matter how I pose, it's not going to look good. And that is a lie that you're telling yourself and that society has told you, and you need to start breaking that down, because you can look good in photos, and you do. Trust me, if all I looked at was like magazines or ads or whatever to see if I would look good posing, like I wouldn't necessarily see my body type either. So you kind of have to just break through some of that societally imposed judgment on your body. And I think the more you take photos, I mean, the side benefit is that you start to like how you look better, at least in my experience. Okay, and my third tip, if you are unsure of how to start posing, is just to look up inspiration on Pinterest. I like to do this before I go out and take photos. Like today, I just looked up like desert photo shoot on Pinterest and tried to see what kind of poses there might be. Honestly, in this particular search, I didn't really find anything I could replicate because I don't have a cute hat or a big flowy dress, so I just kind of went for my standards. All right, back to taking more photos. And we're back to trying to take photos without injuring ourselves. Okay, I have found a slightly less risky area. This is mostly just dirt, so I think I should be all right. I think this was my mark where I thought I would go, so try to make it look like I'm not sitting on my flip-flops. One thing I've always noticed about the Imaging Edge app as well is that you really need to make sure that your face is facing the camera when you hit the shutter, so that it can use the face recognition to do the autofocus. Otherwise, it's gonna be a little out of focus. I've got my finger over the shutter button and I'm gonna look at the camera. Hopefully that worked. We'll check. Yeah, my cord was definitely out, but your girl's in focus, so that was the main aim of that. Okay, I like to check my edges to make sure that my feet aren't getting cut off or whatever. I'll be real, I'm scratched up. I've got needles in me every which way. I hope none of them are poisonous. But these are some cute ass photos, so is it worth it? Probably it is worth it, y'all. Now hopefully you can see what I mean on this little screen recording of like, this is a cool like wider photo, but I kind of wanted to see like my head and shoulders above the horizon, and here we've been able to achieve that with this framing. Now that we've risked life and limb to take some good photos, why don't we go and edit them and get them ready for Instagram. Okay, y'all, I've brought you over to the One Slice of Shade for Miles next to the van, because obviously if we're gonna edit photos, we want minimal glare on the laptop. Now, ideally, of course, I would just be inside where there's no glare at all, but Dan's in a meeting right now, so we do what we have to do to get the work done. So I've got obviously my SD card from my camera here, and I've just got this dongle because I have a MacBook from 2018, so you know that's how it goes. I also have an external hard drive that I store all of my like YouTube videos and photos and everything on. So obviously the first step is getting all of the images off of my SD card and onto my hard drive, which we've done. So now I'm gonna go ahead and open up Lightroom, and I'll show you the little editing stuff that I do. Don't even look at how my Lightroom library is organized because it's atrocious. I really just use this like for Instagram photos, for thumbnails. Any proper photographer would probably look at this and scoff because it is really disorganized. But okay, we are going to probably not import that one. I'm just kind of looking through, and the one where I hurt my foot. And then we'll just add in those 11 photos. Okay, now that my photos are imported, let's start editing. I'm gonna choose this guy, I think, for our first one, because I really like the general composition and how it turned out. So honestly, where I usually like to start is I do have some of my own presets. If you want to check them out, they are for sale on my website. They're just very basic, kind of get you started with an Instagram look kind of presets. So I kind of just like look through them and see if I like the look of any of them. Not for this guy. Sort of like the vibe of that. Summer Day is one of my favorites. And then I kind of just go from there and like play around with the exposure and contrast and everything. I mean, such a helpful tutorial, Katie. Really, I think when it comes to Lightroom, it's just about playing around, seeing what you like, and don't be afraid to change all these different sliders. The main thing is like, don't change anything to the extreme. You see, your girl loves teal, so I always move this one over a lot. But just kind of make subtle tweaks until you're happy with how it looks. And realistically, I need to do this where I don't have as much glare on my screen. Really, when it comes down to it, editing your photos in Lightroom is totally a creative process, and it's based on your own personal preference. I really don't think there's any major rights and wrongs, other than I personally wouldn't like up the saturation and vibrance too much to the point where it looks really unnatural and kind of like something that you made in Picnic in 2009. But otherwise, go wild, do whatever you think looks good, and that's kind of the fun of it. So also, I think that, you know, this perfectly curated look is sort of dying out on Instagram. So if you want to play around and do something different with each photo, I think you can totally do that. All right, now in terms of actually getting this photo ready to post on Instagram, I have a few tips for you. And if you want a more in-depth explanation of this strategy, I would definitely recommend checking out this video that I made all about growth strategies that aren't reels, and this is drawing on one of those strategies. So if you're gonna post photos like this, my personal strategy for actually like getting these to have engagement and be effective for my growth, because honestly I think just like posting the image without all this extra stuff isn't gonna be that effective for you on Instagram in 2022. So what I will do when I post this photo is, first of all, I will write a kind of irrelevant to the image, but hopefully a generally valuable and helpful caption that probably will talk about like Instagram growth, social media strategy, self-confidence, entrepreneurship. Those are the kinds of themes that I cover on my Instagram. So the caption will be about one of those things, because that's what I know my audience is looking for. Then, in addition to writing this helpful, hopefully, caption, I'm gonna make sure that my image has a location tag. So in this case, it'll be like Guadalupe Mountains. I'll tag any of the brands that I've featured, like here, this is from Old Navy. I'll probably tag that. I'll maybe like tag some like New Mexico or Texas like tourism boards or something like that. I could even tag some community accounts that are relevant to what I'm talking about in my captions. So if I'm talking about entrepreneurship, you know, I could tag like the Boss Babe Inc. account or something like that. I might tag my business, Creatorly Media, if it's relevant. I want to make sure I include lots of tags inside the image that might help my content be discovered by people who could be interested in it. And I might even try to craft a few very specific hashtags. I don't usually go overboard on this. I don't spend a lot of time really trying to research these in depth, and I don't do a lot of repetition of the same hashtags over and over again. I will try to come up with ones that are super specific to this particular post, mostly to the caption. And to make it a little bit more engaging, I might include some video footage, like I'll make it a carousel of these images, and I might include some video footage that I happened to shoot for this YouTube video of me in the process of posing, because I think that that can kind of make it a little bit more interesting, show the behind the scenes. Once again, these are tips that I shared with you in this video, so go check it out if you want to learn more about how you can grow with other Instagram content that's not just Reels. And at that point, I'm pretty much ready to go ahead and post this image. So that has been my process all the way from coming up with the concept, shooting the image, editing it, and getting it ready for Instagram. I hope that this has been interesting or insightful for your own process. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about what I showed you in this video, or if you want to see more tutorials like this. If you like this style of create content with me kind of video, then you'll definitely want to check this one out next, where I show you my personal process for creating Reels. And as always, I hope that you are out there having adventures and following your dreams, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!